Okay, we have discussed about the need for performance appraisal. We have discussed about the characteristic of effective performance appraisal system, and we have discussed on the considerations before we design performance appraisal system. And in the last part, we are going to discuss on the matters, important aspect that we need to take care of when conducting performance appraisal review or performance appraisal evaluation. So in this part, we are going to discuss 4 important aspects. First of all, what we need to do while observing and recording performance in the first part. In the second part, we are going to look at the importance of providing feedback and coaching during performance appraisal review or performance appraisal period. Okay, and in the third part, we are going to discuss important aspect while rating or providing evaluations during performance appraisal. And in the last part, we are going to discuss on how should we communicate the feedback, okay, the performance score of the employees. Conducting performance appraisals requires IO psychologists, managers, or even human resource personnel to observe and record performance. To do so, we can use both traditional or more modern approach. Okay, for the traditional approach, or mostly commonly used in current practice of performance appraisal, is to directly observe the behavior or the performance of our employees. Or we can even use recording. Okay, these two under traditional approach. A more modern approach which utilize technology is to use electronic performance monitoring, okay, EPM. So this is basically requires the company to have application of technology to record the performance of the employees. Okay, to a certain extent, we can even record, okay, how what are the focus or usage of computers. Okay, what website that they serve during the time of working. Okay, how fast they respond to the email. Okay, the stroke of their typing and etc. So that is under category of electronic performance monitoring. So in order for us to observe and record performance, we can use both traditional and more modern approach, EPM. Okay, besides recording performance, monitoring performance, we should also focus on giving feedback and coaching. Okay, most of the times companies or organizations forget that while observing the performance, we can also have an input so that the performance can be improved. Okay, for certain company, performance evaluation periods are very short, and for most of the company, the observation of employee performance is basically year long. Okay, so in that case, giving feedback is very beneficial for the improvement of individual performance. Okay, why? Continuous constructive feedback during the year allow for continuous improvement and performance enhancement for the employees. So while observing them, while evaluating them, the assessor, okay, the rater, okay, the evaluator can always give constructive feedback so that they can always improve their performance. Feedback on low performance, in addition with coaching, will always help employees to improve their performance and competencies. Bear in mind, people who evaluate performance are people who know about the job. Okay, the managers, the superior, the supervisor, the director. So these people have the knowledge, okay, have the competencies to provide coaching to the relevant employees. So during observation, okay, during conducting performance appraisal review, we can also provide feedback and we can also provide coaching. Okay, another important aspect that we need to do when conducting performance appraisal is rating process. Okay, first we need to observe and record, and we need to provide feedback as well as coaching. And the most important part is to provide rating or to give rating. Okay, what is the behavior represent in terms of scoring? Okay, excellence, good, meet expectations, or below expectation, and etc. Okay, providing rating is a simple process. However, it must be done in the correct way. Okay, why? Here, the rater, the evaluator, need to make sure that he himself or herself need to avoid from doing bias or being influenced by certain aspect. So in this part, rating of the employee's performance should be made fairly, should be made justly, and must be free from biases. So one of the way to reduce biases is basically to train the raters, the evaluators, okay, the managers on what type of error and biases that they might be influenced with, okay, such as range restriction errors, okay, contrast error, halo effects, similarity and liking, as well as recency error. So what is range restriction errors? Okay, range restriction errors have another 3 types of errors under this type of error, which is leniency error, strictness error, or central tendency error. Okay, take ourselves for examples. When we give rating, we need to evaluate whether we are too strict or not. Strict means that everyone or majority will receive low score. Because of what? Because the rater are strict in giving their evaluations. In contrast, some people would be very lenient in giving their evaluations, which results into most of people, sometimes they not deserve it, okay, most of people receive high score or high ratings. And there are people who most likely will not use all range of scoring, but they focus on the middle. Okay, say for example, you have 1 to 5 rating. 1 is very poor, 2 is poor, 3 is average, 4 is good, and 5 is very good. Okay, for people who have this central tendency error, they will always give 3 or 4 or 2. Okay, which are focus on the middle or central continuum of the rating. Okay, it's very few or none at all will receive 5, or none at all will receive 3. Worst case scenario, everyone will get 3. Okay, that is for range restriction errors. Another types of errors while conducting performance appraisal, okay, while doing rating, for example, is contrast error. So why contrast error happen? Contrast error happen when the evaluator or the rater compare the performance of the employee with other employees or with other group of employees. Okay, if they say, for example, one employee are significantly different in terms of styles, in terms of personality, okay, in terms of background with other group of people, this person will receive low or higher mark as compared to the other group, even though her or his performance is more or less the same. She or he received that kind of score or that kind of rating because she is different than the others. Okay, so bear in mind, for the raters, for the evaluators, for the managers, you need to be objective and make sure that you do not be influenced by contrast errors. Okay, the next effects of errors is halo effect. Okay, halo effect. I think some of us have heard about halo effects before. Halo effect refers to raters' overall impression of the ratee, which may drive the entire assessment of the employee regardless of what questions are being asked. This impression is often derived from one dimensions of performance, affecting the ratings of all performance dimensions. Okay, so basically, because you already have some judgment, okay, some perception about the persons, your perception will influence your rating, okay, regardless whether it's positive or negative perception. If you always have positive perceptions towards these persons, your rating most probably will be more lenient. Okay, on the other hand, if you always have negative perception about the person, halo effects, so your evaluation most likely will be low or become more stringent. Okay, and that is related to similarity and liking error. Okay, this is happen a lot of the time, especially if the performance appraisal is not being developed or designed properly. Similarity and liking refers to the rating error where the ratee is evaluated higher than the warranted performance levels because the rater likes the person. Okay, dislike this because maybe because of similarity. Just because someone's are coming from the same background, like the persons who give the rating, so he or she might receive a more favorable rating. Okay, this is because the error of similarity and liking. Okay, like again, I will have to emphasize here. When do the rating, we must be objective. Okay, we must evaluate fairly and justly. Okay, avoiding from bias. Okay, the last error is recency error. Okay, so some of us have heard about primacy effects and recency effects. So this might be related to that. Okay, in the recency error, the judgment, okay, the evaluation, the ratings are given to a person is being influenced by the recent event. Okay, remember if your company conducting performance appraisal once a year, you may need to evaluate the performance of the whole year, not for the past month. Okay, if you are conducting performance appraisal twice a year, every 6 months, then your evaluation is basically for the duration of 6 months. Okay, not only for the last 6 weeks. Okay, what happens for the recency error is our judgment, our evaluation, our ratings are being influenced with the recent event. If the recent event is somehow negative, okay, then the persons will get low score. Or if the recent event is positive, okay, then the person might receive higher score. Okay, so please make sure that your evaluation is accounted or is related to the durations of the observation. Okay, durations of the performance appraisal, not only accounted for the recent event. So how can we reduce or minimize these errors from happen? Okay, so there are many ways that we can do to make sure that our evaluator, our rater is aware of that they might be influenced by those biases and those errors. So among the things that we can do is we can provide training. Okay, training on what? We can provide training on the rater error trainings. Okay, what I've been discussing just now, what we have been learning just now, we can also tell or inform those informations to the possible raters. Next is to provide frame of reference training. Okay, what is frame of reference training? So we give a concrete example of behavior, and we also inform the raters if those kind of behavior demonstrated by the employee, what are the appropriate level of scoring? Okay, what are the appropriate levels of rating that we should give to the employee? Okay, that is frame of reference training. As well as we should also train our raters, okay, our evaluator, the manager, the superior, or if we are doing 360 feedback system, we need to also inform the other peers, subordinates, okay, as well as the customers or self appraisal. We need to inform them about the system, okay, about the performance appraisal system, so that they can have idea and they can be more accurate in providing the evaluation. Okay, beside providing training, okay, in order for us to minimize the effects of errors and biases, we can conduct calibration meeting. So what is calibration meeting? Calibration meeting is basically a meeting or a discussion among all raters involved to validate the ratings that I have given to a person. Okay, if you are using multiple raters like the last one, and then you are using 360 feedback, or you're using multiple raters in this sense, then you can calibrate to see the reliability of the ratings. Okay, say for example there are 3 raters there and all raters rated 4, then there could be high reliability in that, then there you can validate that the rating is more accurate. If for example during the calibration meetings another person give it 1, another person give it 5, another person give it 4, you can see that there are much variance in that. So it requires more focus and more elaboration why those kind of difference rating happen. Okay, besides training and calibration meeting, raters can also be trained or being guided to do diary keeping. Okay, so remember, some performance appraisal takes a very long time, a year, for example. So every important events, okay, every important incidents that happen that involve the person can be recorded in the manager's or the evaluator's diary, so that when you make the judgment, when you make the evaluations, it will be more informed why those ratings are given, because of the incidents that you have been recorded in the diary. Another way of reducing errors and biases is to use objective appraisal. Okay, what is objective appraisals? It's similar to the output appraisals in the rating. Okay, somehow we use objective data from the human resource department or from the company records. Okay, so here there is no opportunity, or there is no influence of individual or subjective evaluation on the ratings of the employees. So objective appraisal or objective data can minimize or can reduce the problem of errors and biases while doing the rating. And like I mentioned just now, we can even use multiple raters. Okay, if we are using 360 feedback system, obviously there will be a number of evaluators or raters. Then we can see the reliability or the consistency of ratings received by the person. Okay, the easiest way is to average out. However, if there are too big difference, okay, too many differences, or the variances is too big, maybe we need to revisit, okay, why certain people evaluated lowly and why certain people give a higher rating. Okay, so here using multiple raters can also reduce the problems of errors and biases while doing the rating. Okay, in the last part, okay, as an evaluator, as someone who in charge in performance appraisals, we need to communicate, we need to provide feedback on the performance of the employees after the completions of the performance review, okay, performance appraisal review. So bear in mind, this communication, okay, this exercise, okay, this action is not similar to providing feedback and coaching in the second part. No, it's not related to that. This is basically, we already have the result of performance appraisals, and now how can we communicate those informations to the employee? Now employee already get high score, already get low score or average score. So how can we communicate those informations to the raters? And the big mistake is we do not communicate. We only give results, we don't provide reasons, okay? Or we don't tell them what are their performance, so they cannot improve, and we might hamper or might cause challenges or problems to the organization. So after we complete doing the performance appraisal, okay, we do the observation and record our performance. Okay, we do coaching and feedback during the evaluation process, and then we do the rating. Okay, we try our best, okay, to be objective and not to be influenced by biases and errors. Now is the time for us to communicate the results. Okay, feedback of the performance appraisal actually reduces performance when it switches attention from the task to the self, and when it threatens self-esteem. So be careful, okay? Be careful when you give the information, when you explain the results to the employees. You need to focus on the task, on the behavior, on the performance itself. Okay, do not condemn, do not critique the person itself. Okay, why? This may hinder the performance. When negative reaction happens among employees, okay, their performance might be even become worse. Okay, so it strengthens their self-esteem. So in that sense, how feedback is given is much more important whether the feedback is given or not. Okay, if say for example, someone who are not trained in human resource, or someone who are not trained in industrial and organizational psychology, someone who are not trained in performance appraisals, they just give feedback and they condemn their employees. Okay, if you want to do that, if like that, might as well you don't inform them at all. Okay, it's better they do not know or they do not go to that process rather than go there and get condemned and hamper their self-esteem. Okay, so industrial and organizational psychologists has been researched on what is the best way to provide feedback to our employees after the performance appraisal. So there are two methods that are highly recommended, which are sandwich technique as well as action plan technique. Okay, so what is sandwich technique? Okay, sandwich technique is a technique whereby we use different types of informations when we provide the feedback. Okay, say for example, we have 5 criteria. Some criteria our employees perform well, while some criteria our employees perform bad. So these sandwich techniques encourage us to arrange the informations based on good or bad. Okay, in a way, first you give good feedback first. Okay, you provide, okay, you tell and you explain, okay, these are the parts that you have done very well. Okay, and then in the second part, you put in the negative or the low performance area. Okay, and then however, this part that you need to improve. Okay, you have been doing this, however, these have impaired your efficiency, productivity, and then you need to improve in this part and this part. Okay, in the second part. So look at the first part, good information, high performance. Okay, second part, bad information. Okay, the one that they don't perform well. And then the third part, you bring back the positive aspect of it. Okay, you tell the things that they have been doing well. So you sandwich the negative feedback, okay, with positive feedback. Positive, negative, and positive. So this is the sandwich technique. Okay, another technique is action plan technique. Okay, this is very proactive methods. Okay, say for example, your employee does not perform well in all criteria. Okay, so you cannot do sandwich. Okay, there is no positive, all negative, all low performance. What the managers, okay, the human resource, the IO psychologists can do is basically to come out with a plan on how to improve the competency and performance of the employee. Okay, instead of only explaining about their low performance, but you come in with a concrete action plan. Okay, the first part explain. So in this criteria, in teaching criteria, you are not being performing well as compared to others, and in fact, based on student evaluation, they have not giving a favorable rating. And if you look at their performance in the final exam as well, okay, all of your students are not doing well. So all are basically negative, okay, low performance. Okay, what we can do here is I can attach you with a very good lecturer. Okay, from there you can learn through coaching and mentoring. So you are giving action plan. You are giving activities or program so the person can improve directly from the performance. So this is an example of action plan technique. Okay, by that we come to the end of these lessons. Okay, this short video, I hope it's short. Okay, so in this performance appraisal, conducting performance appraisal, in the first part we discuss about the introduction, what performance appraisal means. And then in the second part we discuss on the need for performance appraisal. Okay, there are 4 needs there. Okay, we can look at the administrative, we can look at developmental, we can look at research purposes and legal reasons. And then we discuss the 5 characteristics of effective performance appraisal system. Then we come to the designing performance appraisal system, where we need to consider 3 aspects. Okay, what are to be rated, okay, what rating to be used, who should be the rater. And lastly, just now, we are discussing on important aspect when conducting performance appraisal.